a couple of items for House Bill 2007, and we'll start with a motion to remove all of the ARPA interest items in House Bill 2007, with the exception of the Dole State building completion. That subtraction totaling $47,963,748. Wait for a second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Senator Erickson seconds. Questions? Senator Owens?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on the Dole State office building, can you tell me, are we over budget? Like, why are we spending an extra 20 million on that?
Senator Claes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that's for all of the furnishings, and yes, I think there were some change orders throughout, so it's a mix of both of those things. The reason that it's left in is because largely that money has been spent or is in the process of being spent.
That was my next question, is there a reason? But that answers it. Thank you.
So, and the rest of the funds, the reason for pulling those out is simply so that we can start from scratch on our side as far as where dollars are allocated from, whether they be SGF, State Highway Fund, ARPA interest, that those decisions can be made here as well, so that we'll have our own position on those funds.
Senator Petty.
Thank you, and I believe Senator Claes has just answered my question. So you're pulling out the 47 million that's covered by ARPA funds, and with this motion, then those items, there would not be any funding source.
Senator Claes.
Correct. Yeah, in the bill, as it would exist on the Senate side, there would not be a funding source for the items that are now listed as ARPA interest. And I want to be clear, this is the ARPA interest funds. It's not the ARPA funds. Those are all committed. But these ARPA interest dollars that the House chose to spend on specific projects or line items, we would then have the opportunity to review each of those and choose whether we were going to do other funding sources for them or if we had other priorities on the Senate side. So we can go into a conference with our own positions.
Senator Petty.
Thank you. So, yes, and I meant to say ARPA interest funds. So you're saying then we would, as we move along in this process, I mean, we will be having conversations about whether we're going to put the funds in here, or we're just talking about moving to conference to deal with this.
Senator Claes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would have conversations about where this roughly $48 million is spent. I think that probably more succinctly sums up. The $48 million would be free of its encumbrance that's currently involved in 2007, and we would be able to spend those dollars in the ways that we see fit, whether it be for the exact same items, a combination thereof. Perhaps we have different funding sources in mind for some of these items that are currently funded through this particular method.
Thank you.
That's where we'd be.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Claes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along those same lines, I'll make a motion to remove all of the Economic Development Initiative Fund items from House Bill 2007 for FY 2026, totaling $44,668,280.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Senator Erickson seconds. Discussion. Senator Petty.
I'd appreciate if that could be, if he could say that again. That's one thing, and then I have a question.
Senator Claes.
Sure. The motion is to remove all of the Economic Development Initiative Fund items from House Bill 2007 for 2026, totaling $44,668,280.
Senator Petty.
I do find it a little bit difficult, since we have just begun this process, to not have that list in front of us, since the senator is making a comprehensive request here. Is that available?
Just a second. Do we have a list, Dylan? Okay, we'll get that for everyone. Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You want to be recorded?
Yes.
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The final motion has to do with the Kansas Board of Regents. I would make a motion that all items not requested by the Kansas Board of Regents be removed from House Bill 2007.
I have a motion. Do we have a second? Senator Erickson. He was almost wanting in on some action, so, okay. Questions? Senator Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it seems that this is, since we are having a hearing today on the Board of Regents budget and presentations from the Regents University, that this is somewhat premature of making a motion to remove all items not requested. I'm not sure I quite understand. So not approved in HB 2007. Can I have a little clarification there?
Senator Clays.
Sure. So these would be items that the House of Representatives added to HB 2007 that were not asked for by the Kansas Board of Regents. We would start from a clean slate of items that were requested by the Kansas Board of Regents.
Senator Petty.
Well, that kind of gets back to my comments yesterday. The fact that why we have not been working this bill all along and waiting for why we would not work the original budget bill that was introduced, our 2007, and we have not. And now we're at a point where we're now dealing with a product that's been sent to us by the House, and these amendments are being made before we've even actually delved into the budget. So I find this motion very premature.
Senator Holscher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a person who worked in a corporate setting developing budgets for organizations of even a larger scale than this, I have to concur with what the previous senator said. This seems a bit out of order to vote on items and issues before hearing the information that is about to be presented. So I will not be supporting this.
Senator Clays. No comments? Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. You want to be recorded?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now we'll start out with our presentations, and if everyone could keep them to around 10 minutes, we'd appreciate it because we have a lot of information. So we're going to start out with, I don't know if everybody's here or not. Yes.
We have
Okay, yeah, Sade.
I'm sorry, You're sure.
Brianna, he told me Sade. I didn't look, sorry. Anyway, we're going to have a staff overview with Brianna Horton, KLRD. Brianna, welcome to the committee.
Good morning, committee. My name is Brianna Horton. I am the fiscal analyst for higher education. I'm going to give you a brief overview, so your head might spin, but I'm going to try and get through this so we can give everyone else their time up here. So please feel free to ask me any questions afterwards, and I've tried to provide a lot of supplemental documents. So that page 1 gives an overview of the Kansas Board of Regents. This is just for the agency as itself. This does not include all of higher education. This is just K-Board's operating budget on page 1. I think it's on page 99 in you guys' volume 2 book, yes.
Officer.
So I'm going to just hit some high-level points. So on page 2, you see that there are several reappropriations for SGF, EDIF, and EBF, and those items are described in 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to move to the supplemental request, which is item 4 for Excel and CTE. The agency requests $358,836 to reimburse colleges for courses delivered in 2024 to high school students in technical courses. The Board of Regents is statutorily required to maintain a career technical education incentive program to a school district for each high school graduate who graduates from that district with an industry-recognized credential in a high-need occupation. So all of these were deleted by the LBC, but this item particularly is in sub HB 2007. Item number 5 is the Accelerating Opportunity Kansas AOK reimbursement supplemental. The agency requests $3,925 for the state reimbursement payments for the Accelerating Opportunity Kansas AOK program. The AOK program is designed to help adult students complete their pathways and earn industry-recognized credentials. The board staff ran the instructional cost model using certified enrollment data, which totaled $3,925, which is more than the amount available. The agency is requesting these funds to fully reimburse colleges for courses delivered in FY 2025. If we flip to the next page, item 6 for GED accelerators and supplemental, which is a supplemental, the agency requests $96,400 for GED accelerator payments. The GED Accelerator Initiative provides incentives to eligible institutions for adults seeking to earn a GED or high school equivalency diploma program or identified credential while enrolled in an eligible post-secondary technical education program. The GED Accelerator was initially financed with a transfer of $1.9 million SGF in 2015. However, in 2017, $900,000 was transferred back to the state general fund, leaving $1 million in funding. The requested funding will be used to pay incentives to colleges eligible to receive payments for program activity. Item number 7 is the AOK course materials. The agency requests $8,567 for AOK course materials. The 2023 legislature passed Senate sub HB 2600, which amended the AOK work program to permit state funds to be used for books related to materials up to $500 per student. This legislation allowed funding to be used for students pursuing specific high school equivalency, but precluded AOK GED students from financial assistance. The 2024 legislature expanded the language to include all students in 2024 SB 438, but did not include an appropriation for this change. I believe those are all of the supplementals. And so if you flip back, I don't want to keep having you flip back and forth, but those other changes are kind of what Shirley was talking about yesterday. Those are payments or programs that the legislature funded, and those are going out to the Board of Regents. So you'll see there's $20 million for state capital renewal, $8.5 million for NIST playbook. That negative shows that those payments are going to each university budget. So when you flip through those budgets, you will see an increase because that's that money going into that account. If we flip to the 2026 analysis, I'm not sure what page it is for you guys, but it's this page here that starts on for FY 2026. 105, thank you, Senator. I provided another document for you guys, so you guys should have this, which talks about one of their requests, and then there's another packet from the Board of Regents that gives more detail about all of their enhancement requests. It should be on your desk there. That'll provide more detail than my summary, because my summary is just a little paragraph, so if you want to reference that while I'm talking through these. So this is for FY 2026, so there is about 20 enhancements. So item number 1 is student affordability, and so that's what this sheet here covers. The request is $90 million, so this kind of gives a breakdown of what's inside of that request. So the agency requests $90.1 million SGF for K-Board student affordability. This funding would support the operation of the public universities and will be invested in ensuring the system of the universities and K-Board office can recruit, retain faculty, staff, and provide a greater level of financial aid to Kansas residents and provide a wider adoption of open educational resources. The funding will be allocated this way. So $46 million for system-wide cost increases, $27.5 for the SGF pay plan increase, $14.4 million for need-based aid, $1.8 million for market pay adjustments for Washburn, and then $200,000 for open educational resources, which is a course material kind of like for electronic textbooks. Item number 2 is for infrastructure and cybersecurity. The agency requests 10 million SGF for IT and cybersecurity to reduce security and operating risks facing the institutions from legacy technologies. The funding would be devoted to efforts across all public institutions, including cybersecurity assessments and third-party penetration exercises. Item number 2 is similar, 10 million SGF for continued investment for the 2-year colleges. If you move to item number 4, you will see the NIST playbook. The agency requests 6.4 million SGF for the NIST playbook. The NIST playbook provides specific recommendations to each university to increase graduation and retention rates for all students. Item number 5 is student success initiatives. The agency requests 11.7 million SGF for student success initiatives at 2-year colleges. The initiatives will focus on training the Kansas workforce and ensuring the competition and retention of all students. Item number 6 is for Washburn Labs. The agency requests 5 million SGF for science labs at Washburn. Washburn University has adopted the K-Board General Framework, which requires students to take a science course lab component. The request would support the expansion of general laboratory space at Stouffer Hall. Item number 7, the Washburn Operating Grant Enhancement. The agency requests 3.3 million for an SGF for an increase to the Washburn University Operating Grant. Historically, the municipal operating grant has received 14.3 million SGF. So this request would bring the total allocation to 17.6 million for FY 2026. The request will support operations to implement new pathways and programs such as cybersecurity program with an applied focus on healthcare and forensic investigation. Other initiatives include expanding the education program and increasing scholarship aid for students. This item was also included in the House budget bill. If we flip to the next page, item 8, the adult education enhancement, the agency requests 1 million SGF to increase the number of English language acquisition students served and expand integrated education and training efforts to help students get their high school equivalency and industry certification. Item number 9 is for the HEROES Act scholarship. The agency requests 1.5 million SGF due to increase of applications for the HEROES Act scholarship. In FY 2023, there were 113 new applicants. In FY 2024, there was 175 new applicants. And in FY 2025, there were 212 applicants within the first 7 weeks. Item number 10 is the One Health for the universities. The agency requests 51 million for the One Health project. This is a joint initiative between Wichita State, the University of Kansas, and K-State to create new companies and jobs and train the next generation of scientists and healthcare professionals. This request will be used to establish a dedicated strategic research fund that will be used by the 3 research institutions to address current health challenges. So that next paragraph below kind of describes the role of each institution. Item number 11 is the regional growth and development enhancement. The agency requests 21 million to strengthen educational, economic, and workforce outcomes for the 3 Kansas regions. This request is on behalf of the 3 regional institutions, Emporia State, Pittsburg State, and Fort Hays State. If you flip over on that bottom line, you'll see the funding breakout for that. So the funding would be divided with Fort Hays State receiving 8 million, Emporia State receiving 6 million, and then Pittsburg State also receiving 6 million. Item number 12 is K-State 105. The agency request includes 5 million SGF for K-State 105 initiative to focus on local strategies, caregiver support, and digital health and access to digital health resources and behavioral health needs. The initiative engages communities and strengthens experience across 105 counties. This item was also funded in the budget bill at 3.5 million, and it was funded with EDIF. Item 13 is the KSU Next Generation Initiative. The agency requests 7.5 million SGF to improve operations, recruit and retain faculty, and offer scholarships for rural students through the Kansas State University Next Generation Animal Health and Animal and Human Health Initiative. The funding will be used to advance animal health through enhanced facilities, greater research activity, and educational programs. Item number 14 is the KU School of Architecture. The agency requests 10 million SGF for the University of Kansas School of Architecture. The school is currently located in 7 locations across campus and is in need of a studio, teaching office, and common area space. The project would allow KU to admit more qualified applicants, create space to house existing programs, and expand program options in a consolidated space. Item 15 is the KUMC Medical Student Loan Program expansion. The agency requests 8.6 million SGF for the University of Kansas Medical Center Medical Student Loan Program to increase the number of available slots to medical students and expand the program to include medical specialists. If we flip over on item 16 is for the WSU School of Dentistry. The agency requests 5 million SGF for Wichita State to conduct a feasibility study to determine the exact requirements and costs to establish an accredited dental school. The university currently has 2 dental hygiene programs and estimate it would cost 100 million to construct a facility. Item number 17 is for the GED Accelerator. The agency requests 100,000 for the GED Accelerator. The Board of Regents administers the Post-Secondary Education Performance-Based Incentives Fund. This fund provides incentives to institutions for adult students seeking to earn a GED or high school equivalency diploma in an identified industry credential or both while enrolled in an eligible post-secondary education program. Item 18 is for the Community College Capital Outlay Aid. The agency requests 5 million SGF for community college capital funding. This funding is for those community colleges that do not receive funding under the current statute, which is listed there. Item 19 is for the pilot program. The agency requests 10.5 million SGF to launch a pilot program targeting skilled workforce education. The pilot program called Hired helps to support talent attraction and retention in high demand, sustainable wage, and critical need occupations requiring less than a baccalaureate degree. Item number 20, which is the Tech Colleges Operating Grant, which is also funded in the House Budget Bill. The agency requests 21 million SGF for the Technical Colleges Operating Grant to support facility improvements, equipment, and other program enhancements. Previous funding has expanded capacity in advanced manufacturing, HVAC, plumbing, welding, and early childhood education. Item number 21, which I believe is the last one. Let me double check. Item number 20 was the last one. So again, you'll see that these other items are just changes from the approved. So you'll see some of those negatives in that column because we're comparing the 26 requests to the FY 2025 approved. So either those expenditures have been made or the agency has not requested it this year, which is why it's showing up as a negative. I wanted to point out while I was reading, on your green sheet, you on page 16 starts education, so you can kind of see and follow along with those items that are in the budget bill and then those items that were not included. So I'll just briefly read over those. There's 14.3 million for 2-year college apprenticeships. There's 10.5 million for 2-year college student success initiatives. Those are similar to the NIST playbooks for the Regent institutions. You'll see that the Tech Colleges Operating Grant received 7 million. The NIST playbook has received 5.8 million. The Community Colleges Capital Outlay did receive the 5 million that was requested. Tiered Technical Education received 4 million. Tuition for Tech Ed received 3.9. Washburn Operating Grant did get the 3.3 million originally requested. The Osteopathic Scholarship received 1 million. The Blueprint for Literacy received 2 million in ARPA funds. There was some language for SEDIF capital outlay aid. There was some funding lapse. We did delete the transfer of 32.7 million SGF for the Kansas Campus Restoration Fund, which was a bill that was passed through last year. We did delete some funds for career technical education, tech equipment. We lapsed funding or deleted funding for 2-year college competitive grants, deleted some funding for the tiered and non-tiered, deleted funding for the computer science grant, And then we had originally deleted the 10 million for the blueprint for literacy. If you flip to page 19 on that green sheet, you'll see that there is 2.2 million SGF for Emporia State. So these costs are associated with their legal expenses for salaries and wages, benefits due to program reductions. So there's language specifically in the bill that the funding they receive is used for those things. You'll see on the bottom of page 19, the debt service shift. So K-State had some debt service for the Pure Imagination facility. So the governor's recommendation also includes to shift that funding from K-State to the Department of Administration. So you'll see that on one of those yellow sheets, but that is also in the budget bill. If you flip to page 20, you will see that 3.5 million for EDIF for K-State 105. And then you'll see some accompanying language that the university will have to report to the legislature to make sure they're hitting some target goals for that program. You'll see that there's 2 million for KSU Veterinary Medical Center and some language to prohibit the transfer between intercampuses. If you flip to page 21, you'll see that there was some reappropriated funds. They were originally SGF, and then we moved those to ARPA. Those for airborne electromagnetic surveys at the Kansas Geological Survey. And if you ask me what they are, I'll have to ask Jay Calabasas. And then you'll see at the bottom, the specialty medical student loan program. So we combined the OBGYN medical loan program and then the medical scholarships loans and psychiatry program to create one new scholarship program, which is the specialty medical student loan program. So those two scholarships were dropped into this one, and all of their reappropriated funding and everything else are now in this one, and that's how this is funded at the 1.9 million. And then there's some language for my chart. And then lastly, on page 22, you will see 4.5 million SGF for aviation research. So if you wanted to just compare what was happening in the budget bill versus what they requested, that is in that green sheet. I won't be before you much longer. So the rest of my budget summary will highlight some capital budget items, which include demolition funds, state capital renewal, the Kansas campus restoration transfer. Then those reference tables are, so there's a set of reference tables that is just for the Kansas Board of Regents that shows their funding for 10 years. It gives a breakdown of their programs and a breakdown of all of their FTE, which is between 50 to 60. And then there's another page that says post-secondary system-wide. That just gives you a big overview of how all the universities are when it comes to state operations, assistance, capital budget, et cetera. And it also gives a breakdown of all their FTE at each university. And then in the very back, there's some information on student financial aid. It provides the estimated amount of students served, how much approximately, and then just a little history and info and the statute attached to that. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Brianna. Questions? Senator Petty.
Yeah, I just have a really quick one on page 116 on the FTE positions by program. I noticed the change from the actual to the agencies and then on out. Are those the positions out of the literacy?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that
Are
last.
those the positions out of for the literacy, the blueprint for literacy? Because that seems to be 5 positions. I just wonder.
Just a second. So in the beginning of my document, and I'm sorry, we don't all have the same pages. If you look at the front page, there is an additional 5 FTE that KBOR was requesting. So the 2024 legislature appropriated 10 million SGF for the blueprint for literacy. 2 remaining FTE positions are for chief of staff and a vacant position, and those other 3 are for the blueprint for literacy program.
Senator Petty.
I'll talk to you later. That didn't answer my question, but that's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Other questions? Seeing none, Brianna, thank you. We'll now start our testimony. We'll start with Dr. Tisa Mason, President of Fort Hays State. And I don't know if he was here when we started, but we need to keep it 10 minutes so we can let everyone have time.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, good morning, Chair Billinger and members of the committee. I do want to let you know, since this is a budget committee, I also brought our CFO with us, Mr. Wesley Winch. I appreciate the opportunity to dive a little deeper and highlight some of the great work that we're doing and the challenges that we face. Thank you so much for your investment in the regional universities. Fort Hays strategically accessed the $3 million investment, demonstrating our commitment to maximizing value and fostering student success. We've approached these funds with a dual focus on short-term wins and long-term sustainability. A prime example of our responsible stewardship is the renovation of our cadaver lab scheduled for this summer. In addition to the dollars that you provided, we secured a $50,000 grant and $100,000 in philanthropy. We're also intensifying our efforts in workforce development and cybersecurity. To continue advancing these critical initiatives and meeting regional needs for our service area, we respectfully seek your ongoing support. The Kansas Board of Regents has authorized just one ask for the regional universities, a recurring request of $21 million. Of the $21 million, $8 million is designated for Fort Hays State. The post-secondary funding model was established about 25 years ago, and during this time, Fort Hays experienced about 19 consecutive years of growth, only encountering setbacks as many institutions did during the pandemic. Happily, we're beginning to see a turnaround with academic year enrollment just under 17,000. State resources did not support those years of growth, and as a result, we've had a very challenging fiscal environment in an increasingly post-competitive pandemic time. This chart was created by the Kansas Board of Regents for the summer board meeting, showing the funding received per full-time student by sector for fiscal year 2022, including local revenue. While the core functions are the same, recruit, enroll, educate, and graduate, according to this data, the research universities receive $14,636 per student, while the regional sector receives $339 per sector. As president, I am charged with overseeing the financial health of this university. And as we've studied this issue, and again, using Kansas Board of Regents data, a little arm's length, it has been very clear that while our charge as the regional universities is the same, recruit, enroll, educate, graduate, there is a significant gap. So I want to be really clear that I am not here asking for funding to close the gap, but I'm asking that we have some progress in terms of the board-supported request of the $8 million and the corresponding dollars for the other regionals. Fort Hays is not greedy. It's my responsibility to speak to you regarding the financial interests of our university, and we definitely need your help. Our roots in Western Kansas have created a very resilient, fiscally conservative university. And in doing so, we've transformed the lives of countless individuals and uplifted the rural communities of Kansas, both in and outside our 66 county service area. And while we are located in the western part of the state, our reach extends across the state thanks to our years of experience in online education. Our mission is to ensure that Kansans have an affordable, high-quality education choice regardless of their economic circumstances. But we're not just affordable, we deliver value. But don't just take our word for it. The Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity set out to study a return on investment of a college degree in the United States. And across the 27 bachelor's programs that they evaluated, every single Fort Hays program provided a positive return on investment with an average weighted ROI of just north of $400,000. And there's more information in your packet and a handout should you want to delve further into the statistics. However, affordability is insufficient. Accessibility is very vital to empowering rural communities, and we serve a significant number of working adults. A 2024 Docking Institute study indicated that 91% of our students residing on campus or in Hayes, Ellis, or Victoria were employed while pursuing their education, and 68% of these students balance work with scholarships and grant assistance. Only 1.5% of our students are not employed and receive no financial support. Last fall, 56% of our student body was enrolled part-time. So through innovation and online educational platforms, outreach programs, certificates, professional and continuing education, and articulation agreements, such as nursing, as well as our clinical and school psychology guaranteed admission pathways with all 19 community colleges, Fort Hays has extended its reach beyond the physical Hays campus. And through our affiliation with Northwest and North Central, we've removed geographical and logistical obstacles and provide student access, talents for business, and neighbors for rural communities. We thrive on adaptability. Our diverse academic programs reflect the needs of an ever-changing job market and equip our graduates with skills, knowledge necessary to succeed in a competitive world. We established a banking institute to address the critical needs in rural Kansas, guided by a board of bankers and in partnership with the Kansas Bankers Association to blend academic rigor with practical training. In response to the demand for social workers, we expanded our program, offering both a bachelor's and a master's, and we've doubled our enrollment. Discover our impact on nursing social work, cybersecurity, and our 2024 impact in advancing economic prosperity documents in your package. You'll also see some highlights from teacher education. And by the way, we have more than 600 nursing majors on campus this year. Our focus is providing Kansas with job-ready graduates and our unwavering dedication to rural communities. Through our affiliation, we are tripling our value proposition to benefit students, businesses, and the very survival of the state's smaller communities. We take great pride in our conservative fiscal practices, which allow us to provide quality education while managing cost effectively and enhancing the Kansas talent pipeline, and we ensure that every dollar counts. Founded in 1902, our commitment to distance education began in 1911 with correspondence classes, followed by face-to-face instruction in our regional communities in 1920, and by 1998, we began our online classes. We're committed to fostering lifelong learning and address the diverse needs of our populations. Today, we offer a robust online platform, full semester, accelerated courses, certificates, and strategic partnerships. We provide value for businesses via our talent pipeline and hands-on learning opportunities, including our cybersecurity micro internships for small businesses and nonprofits. Our services include website development, security review, network and cybersecurity setup, vulnerability remediation, and security assessment. Our expansive reach drives the local economy. According to the Docking Institute study, in only Ellis County, we've had a $240 million economic impact. Our focus on rural communities, Kansas, and statewide partnerships, along with the growing impact of our tech college partners, continues to amplify throughout the state. In conclusion, we provide a strong value proposition for our students and the state, but are confronting critical funding challenges as we strive to fulfill our mission of meeting workforce needs in an increasingly competitive environment. In light of this, we respectfully present 3 requests. Number 1, support for the $8 million increase in SGF. While not enough to address the funding gaps, this acknowledges the needs for more balanced state support. Examples of how we would use additional dollars include staying up to date with technology, classroom and lab equipments, expanding our AI and distance learning initiatives, doubling down on our workforce development efforts, and most importantly, continuing to drive affordability for our Kansas students. Number 2, exempt Fort Hays State from any potential reductions to the SGF budget, which would further add to the funding gap. And number 3, promote ongoing dialogue about establishing a sustainable funding model for higher education that reflects the needs and the aspirations of both our students and the state. It's also important to note that the system-wide priorities are focused on reinstatement of the $32.7 million for the Kansas Campus Restoration Act, support of the House's position on funding for success, and a pay plan program. Thank you very much for your continued support and for considering these requests as we work together to bring a brighter future for our educational system. Appreciate your time today, and I'll gladly stand for questions at the appropriate time, whether that's now or later.
Thank you. I think with as many presentations as we have, we'll wait till the end.
Perfect.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Dr. Richard Linton, President of Kansas State University. Dr. Linton, welcome to the committee.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and the rest of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today to be able to talk about some of the transformational changes at Kansas State University and to be able to thank you for the investment that you've made in higher education and the investment that you've made in Kansas State University. I think a couple of years ago when I first met you, I had talked about the opportunity to be able to create a new way forward for Kansas State University that transcended into a next generation land-grant university strategic plan. It's a completely new way of thinking, focusing on what's still very important to us, which is research, teaching, and engagement. But I think there's 3 things that we focus on in almost all the work that we do that differentiates us from other universities and colleges in the state. We have a statewide presence and a statewide strategy. We're involved and we have employees in all 105 counties and communities. We focus on optimizing the student experience and are very proud to be recognized by the Princeton Review as one of the top 2 or 3 universities in the country relative to the student experience. And economic growth and job creation is core to what we do from a research perspective and engagement perspective around the entire state. Let's take us back 3 years when we were at an all-time low relative to student enrollment. We had an 8-year period of time where we decreased in enrollment to more than 20% of our students that were lost during that time period. With new strategies, with new leadership at the university, with investments that were made, especially through projects like the Student Success Playbook, we've turned things around very, very well at Kansas State University. You can see our numbers are now greater than 20,000 undergraduate and graduate degree-seeking students for the first time in almost a decade. And we've done that in partnership. We recognize that Kansas State University, through philanthropy, needs to play a role as well, and to work on the student affordability and student debt challenges. We, through the Kansas State University Foundation, have raised over $200 million to be able to support that effort in partnership with the investments that are made by the state of Kansas. I'll just highlight one thing I think this year that shows who we are and also shows what's needed in the state of Kansas. This is a partnership that was signed between Garden City Community College and Kansas State University, knowing that we have first-generation students that are in western parts of the state that are sometimes reluctant to be able to travel all the way across the state to Manhattan, Kansas, or Salina, or Olathe to be able to get a degree. So we've worked in partnership with Garden City Community College, where students can achieve both a 2-year and a 4-year degree and be able to stay in their local communities. The second piece I'm very proud of is our research success. Here you see on the left-hand side is research expenditures. Those are all of the dollars that are spent for research efforts. And then on the right, sponsored programs and awards. And this is really showing the difference that's happening at Kansas State University. These are research influence competitive grants. And you can see those numbers in the last year, the first year of the strategic plan, grew from $214 million to $265 million. That's the biggest increase that we're aware of any land-grant university in the country. That's a 22% increase in the research infrastructure from a competitive awards perspective. And again, these things don't happen unless there's a partnership with investment and advocacy with the university and with the state of Kansas. I'll highlight just one of the important efforts which was a partnership relative to our research infrastructure. If you recall, Kansas State University, through ARPA dollars during a 3-year period, I think there were 3 different stages of ARPA dollars, which totaled $75 million in total, $25 million with no match requirement, $25 million with a 3-to-1 match, or $75 million match, and then last year a $25 million 1-to-1 match. In total, this is a $210 million project, which will involve 9 different facilities, 2 get taken down, 2 get renovated, and 5 new capital infrastructure spaces. We've raised $116 million towards this effort. And again, it's the partnership and it's the leverage. Kansas State University raised $84 million in 4 months. The College of Agriculture hadn't done that in 10 years, and this partnership is what drives us to be successful. And I think you know that this will make a transformational change for both research and education for the #1 sector in the economy, which is agriculture and food systems. Look forward to being at ribbon cuttings this fall. This fall, we'll have a ribbon cutting for the competition livestock arena, and then the interdisciplinary science building, which is the core facility. That'll be sometime August after this one. Another big part of who we are, as I had mentioned earlier, is our statewide presence and our statewide engagement. If you remember, my first year on the job, I visited all 105 counties and communities and listened to stakeholders, listened to cooperative extension, talked about opportunities for growing what we're already strong in, and also talked about opportunities about meeting the needs of communities where we fell short. And I wanted to just share with you some of the things that have come back that we're spending a lot of time in helping our communities because it's important to them. Certainly rural healthcare is a big issue, and we're partnering with Kansas University Health in that effort. Water conservation, entrepreneurial support, transportation, mental health, these are all housing. These are all critically important issues that we feel through cooperative extension we should be delivering on a promise back to our Kansas citizens. These are the 2 specific Kansas State University, Kansas Board of Regents approved priorities. The first is K-State 105. That is our #1 priority at Kansas State University. K-State 105, I'll show you in just a moment some of the return on investment numbers over the last 2 years. If you recall, this was a $5 million level of support for 2 years to be able to perform an experiment and to be able to test what kind of a difference we could make relative to partnerships and job creation and building the economy across the state. In my 30-plus years in higher education and working at 4 other land-grant universities, this has been the most impactful, most engaged effort that I've ever been associated with, and I'm very proud of what's happened, and that's why it's our #1 goal for continued funding and moving forward. The second is that in the College of Veterinary Medicine, we all recognize that Kansas State University should be known as one of the best in the world when it comes to animal disease and diagnostics, with a BSL Level 3 facility and a USDA ARS NBAF BSL Level 4 facility. There is no other facility like that in the United States and only 4 others in the world. We need to be a top university and top state when it comes to animal disease and diagnostics. We're challenged with 2 things. We're challenged with facilities, but we're also challenged with support of a very, very strong but resource-depleted College of Veterinary Medicine. And we're asking for $7.5 million recurring to enable us to be able to better partner with our BSL Level 3 facility and USDA ARS. Just to give you a sense of these 2 asks and some of the progress and or the justification, for K-State 105, first, I think it's important to recognize that most of these dollars that come into K-State are delivered back out into communities where we can make action happen relative to economic growth and job creation. You'll see this is a statewide effort, and in just the first year of reporting, we have partnerships in all 105 counties and communities, have created over 400 jobs, have worked with 415 businesses, and have been able to provide essential training for another 500-plus citizens of the state of Kansas. We'd like to continue this impactful work in moving forward, and that's why we're asking for the continuation of this funding. The second piece is the College of Veterinary Medicine. I know it's difficult to see on this slide, but you can probably see the color purple on the left-hand side, and that's the amount of funding that's provided for the College of Veterinary Medicine with all of our peers across the country. And you can see that we are towards the bottom, one of the last 3 or 4 universities. The university right below us is Oklahoma State University, which receives just a little bit less funding than we do. They are right now on probational accreditation status because of the lack of resources that they have. We are at Kansas State University close to that kind of a challenge. And that's why this ask, I think, is so important and so critical. And if you look up to the blue line above, this is the average level of support around the country for College of Veterinary Medicine. So again, the budget is severely deficient relative to our peers when we should be a leader. We have research facilities that fall very short of being modernized, which creates rural healthcare gaps, and certainly non-modernized equipment and facilities. I thought I would just share with you, as we had turnaround just a couple days ago, this is the current position that we have on the House side. Wait a minute, go back to this. Yes, on the House side, the position for K-State 105 is supportive of $3.5 million, and the position for the College of Veterinary Medicine is also supportive at a level of $2 million recurring. There are 2 other, what I've called state of Kansas needs. These are not Kansas State University priorities, and these priorities are not endorsed by the Kansas Board of Regents. However, I believe that they are critically important to the future state of the state of Kansas. The first is a Kansas veterinary diagnostic lab that helps to be able to service and support the Kansas livestock industry, the Kansas animal industry, and the Kansas veterinarians around the state. We were provided $250,000 last year to be able to do a study which evaluated the potential need of this diagnostic lab, and the justification is really strong for the need for allowing us to be leaders nationally relative to veterinary diagnostic lab. This would be a $130 million one-time investment, and I should be clear that this is not a Kansas State University request per se. It's really a state of Kansas request that would just be housed in an obvious location, which is at Kansas State. The second, and this has been an ongoing need, is a teaching and research facility and center for the dairy industry. I think all of us know that the dairy industry is doubling in size over the next couple of years because of a cheese manufacturing plant that's being built in Dodge City, and with that, another 12 or 13 dairy facilities come up in the western part of the state, and they're looking for research innovation support, and they're looking for workforce development, and we simply have antiquated facilities that can't support the need that's coming our way in the state of Kansas. I should say, too, that like my other colleagues, we're very supportive of the Kansas Board of Regents' top priorities. The first one is the pay plan compensation for faculty and staff. We're in the finalized stages of developing our comparative market study for compensation, but I can tell you from a couple of years ago, we were about 10% below the average relative to our peers and aspirational peers, and it's difficult. It's challenging. We are losing faculty because other states are making big investments. Texas, Colorado, Arkansas, Oklahoma, California, Georgia are examples of states that are taking our really successful, especially younger faculty in their career, and we think it's very important to be able to get towards market so that we can be competitive in retention and be competitive as we try to attract new faculty to our university. Facility funding, and Senator Billinger, I'd like to specifically thank you for your leadership in this area. You've made a tremendous difference in what we've been able to do on our campus over the last 3 years. We have great plans in moving forward for university projects and for projects that support all of our colleges. And this, again, provides a great opportunity for wonderful leverage when we have a one-to-one match relative to repair and renovation. It makes it very easy for us to be able to reach out to our donors to be able to say that you've got $2 for the dollar that you're investing back in Kansas State University. And then, of course, with the student playbook, the Student Success Playbook, Student success and student numbers are a part of recruiting, they're a part of retention, and they're a part of graduation. And with investments that have been made by the state of Kansas and new strategic priorities at the university, our student numbers are way up because of recruitment, they are up because of retention, and our success with graduation rates is a significant increase as well. That ends my testimony today. Again, I appreciate the opportunity for being here, and thank you for your support of higher education.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Next, we'll have Dr. Douglas Gerard, Chancellor of University of Kansas. Welcome, committee, Doug.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you for having us today, and I know this is going to be a marathon session for all of you, so thank you for bearing with us as we run through this. And, you know, I think as you will hear myself and my colleagues testify today, your investment in higher education is very much your investment in the future of the state of Kansas. And that's both from a workforce perspective, but also from an economic development perspective. And I want to give a little perspective on that from the University of Kansas. I won't spend a lot of time on some of these informational slides about really our mission and our vision, but we really aim to be a destination for the top scholars in the country. That includes students, faculty, and staff to come to our state and to really drive change in the economy. We have, this just is a map of where our campuses are. We can go into this at some point if you'd like, but I'm sure not all of you are familiar with that. And if you've never been to Yoder to visit our law enforcement training center, I'd encourage you to do so sometime. It's really quite impressive. When we look at, and we just recently completed an economic development study with Lightcast, a national leader in doing this in higher education, particularly with research universities. Their study came back at an economic impact for the state of Kansas of $15 billion of economic activity. That's a little bit misleading because really what's most important is the $8 billion number, and that's a net number. That's net new money circulated in our economy in the state because of the presence of the University of Kansas in all its many forms. You know, we do that in several different ways as you think about it. Obviously, it's workforce with over 7,000 degrees and certificates every year. And as we look at our graduates, 70% of our Kansas students take a job right here in the region, but actually 35% of our out-of-state students take a job right here in the region. And since we're 43% out of state, that translates to over 800 graduates come from outside the state of Kansas to work, to graduate and work in our communities. Obviously, through our research and innovation, we've created companies, jobs with those companies, over 750 jobs so far at our KU Innovation Park. And then really, you heard from President Linton about the research infrastructure and the importance that that is when you bring that kind of money into our state to drive innovation. KU is actually also the #1 tourist destination for the state of Kansas. And we have over 420,000 visitors to Lawrence, Kansas every single year. And that drives significant economic activity around that. And then certainly we play a role with our sister institutions in doing things like attracting a company like Panasonic, who's now just signed an MOU with us to put a research facility on our West Campus, or putting together the state's shot at a hydrogen hub or a tech hub. And those are key ways. We're trying to think about new ways that the university can help drive the economy as well. The state made some ARPA investment in our Gateway District, which is a combination of our football complex, but probably most importantly from an economic perspective, the largest conference center in the region, and through phase 2, we'll add a hotel, condominium, student housing, parking, and retail space to that. We hope to start phase 2 of that this coming December. That was about an $85 million investment by the state. The whole project will be a $760 million project, with $350 million of that from philanthropy into an economic development project, which is really unique in that regard. That district alone will generate $1.4 billion of spending over the next 20 years, and is going to be really impactful in our region of the state. Obviously, we're out across the state, as are my colleagues, in many different ways with our campuses across the state. Certainly, the medical center touches all 105 counties in one way, shape, or form. We educate half the doctors of the state. And obviously, we provide critical health care in areas that really allow our citizens to stay in the state of Kansas and not have to travel to other regions to get the top-line care that they need. I mentioned the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center, which educates and works with over 12,000 officers every year. We work with over 8,000 volunteer firefighters every year across the state through our Kansas Fire and Rescue Training Institute, which is largely a mobile institute. It's mostly on semi-trucks, and they log 150,000 miles a year traveling to communities to educate them. The Biological Survey and the Geological Survey play critical roles in the state, as we all know. From a research perspective, with over $500 million of research expenditures, that really, if you want to just think about it from an economic impact perspective, that's 4,000 jobs that we employ in the research infrastructure. That money gets spent across the state in over 65 counties. And that's before you start talking about the impact of that research in terms of cures and companies that come out of that. And that growth has been significant in recent years as well. We've had a 65% growth in our federal expenditures since 2018 in a highly competitive environment. And again, that's money that comes to the state of Kansas from elsewhere to drive these activities. KU is known to have areas of expertise, really world-class areas of expertise, and on slide 14, in really brain health, in business, cancer, cybersecurity, one of the top drug discovery pipelines in the country, in areas in the earth, energy, and environment. We're the #4 kidney disease research center in the country. Public administration and special education are two of the top-rated programs in the United States and have been actually for decades. So we've tried very hard to leverage on those areas of expertise to continue our growth. We don't always talk very much about athletics, except we talk about it all the time when we're not here. And I wanted to make just a couple quick points on this one, only in that it's a key element to our institutions. I think you're blessed as a state to have both KU and K-State have independently funded athletics departments. They are not subsidized by the university or by the students in either of our cases, and that's extremely rare. Less than 9% of athletics departments in the country can make that statement. But what they do bring, obviously, is a high degree of engagement for our students. They bring a high level of visibility to our institutions, and quite honestly, are a key part of our enrollment strategies as we go forward as well. And enrollment continues to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge across our country. Will be to at least 2035 due to falling birth rates, and we've seen those pressures. We know the Midwest and the Northeast are going to be hit the hardest. And so a lot of the work that you hear from myself and my colleagues has really been at how do we address that and how do we look towards to maintaining enrollment in our state, which leads to our workforce in our state. And you'll hear that, I think, from every one of my colleagues today. We've had some great success in recent years, particularly the last 2 years. In 2023, we had a 18% jump in our enrollment, freshman class enrollment year over year, and that's led to our highest overall enrollment now this year at almost 31,000 students, and that's the highest enrollment in the history of the university. We know the pressures are coming. We know we've got great competition from other states who are having the same challenge, but we're going to continue to work hard on figuring out how we can maintain those enrollments at KU to help make sure the state has what it needs from a workforce perspective. We do enroll students from all 50 states and about 110 countries that come to KU for their education. And I mentioned we are at about 43% out of state right now, and we work very hard to keep those out of state students right here once they graduate and to take a job in our community. We also try to be very good stewards of our dollars, and this is data from KBOR looking at really the funding per FTE for the various institutions, and I want to thank you for the investment in the medical center. The educational elements of the medical center, the School of Medicine, Nursing, and Health Professions is extraordinarily expensive. The average cost to educate a medical student is about $110,000 a year. and which is why we can't just grow it as fast as we want to grow it, because we can't afford to. But we do continue to look for ways to make sure that we can incrementally grow. For example, our campus in Wichita, I'll speak about, will allow us to grow the medical school class, and you'll see before you an opportunity to increase the medical student loan program for that. But to be good stewards of that, in the last handful of years, we have closed 90 programs, and we've reduced our faculty size by over 10%. And that's 10% on the tenure track line, and it's 22% on the non-tenure track line that we've reduced our faculty, trying to make sure that we can be the best stewards of those dollars and meet the needs of the state. The state has in recent years made individual investments in a number of different areas, and you've heard about the playbook for student success, our need-based aid, all been critical for us. Cybersecurity investments have been critical for us, but certainly the investment in the Cancer Center, which was a $75 million match to philanthropy, has launched us into what will be a $500 to $600 million project to break ground this coming summer. So leveraging that state investment has made that effort possible, and we're extremely grateful for those investments. As we think about this current year, really our highest priorities, there are a number of them listed that was in the budget, but in the KBOR request, but certainly the highest priorities for us are some continued increases in base funding, which really helps us offset rising costs, inflation, and that directly translates to affordability for our students. You heard President Lind talk about, and President Muma talk about salaries, which is a big challenge for us. We are losing talented people to other states because we are woefully behind on salaries, and we have not always been included in the state's increases as they have for other state agencies, and so we have fallen even further behind. And we're all making significant efforts to try and manage that internally, but the state investment there would be huge for us. I mentioned the medical student loan program. That's really a pass-through for us to our students to pay off their debt in exchange for service to our state in an underserved community, and this growth would actually be in rural communities exclusively and to additional types of specialties which our rural hospitals tell us they desperately need. And then Senator Billinger, I would echo that the Campus Restoration Fund has been game-changing for us. In the money that we've gotten in recent years, that's been just shy of $9 million. We've invested ourselves about $40 million on top of that. So it's been game-changing for us, and that's a multiple-year plan, and we hope that that plan will go forward as projected. And with that, I will pass the microphone unless there are questions. You want to take questions all at the end?
Yeah, we'll do it at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we'll have Ken Hush, President of Emporia State University. Ken, welcome committee.
Good morning, everyone. Chair, committee members, thank you very much for allowing us to speak today. Don't know if anyone needs a seventh inning stretch, but feel free. So, simple. You've heard trying to keep it 10 minutes and or less. So I'll bullet point things. You've heard a lot of comments today about the fantastic work that the universities are doing. Higher ed overall is incredible. I see it. I saw it on the outside, hiring graduates over the years, and it's phenomenal what they do. Also, Brianna mentioned numerous KBOR system requests, and you've had detail, you've had others touch on that, and I just would like to say that we would support and kindly request you to consider those for student success programs, facility funding, literacy, and pay and merit accordingly. So thank you. Emporia State, we're a regional university like Pittsburg State and Fort Hays State that Tisa touched on. What the research universities do are phenomenal. And I commend all of you for what you do and what you lead for the state of Kansas. Regional universities are not that. We're different. Our roles and goals are completely different. And I think in the past, it appears that regional universities have been, the whole system of the 6 regional universities have been in a cookie cutter type of consideration and mode and considered semi-equally throughout. And just a segue into, I'm going to touch on just one point, and because it was asked to to emphasize that one point, and Tisa touched on it earlier. It's the regional ask, and it's mentioned it's a $21 million system ask. Directionally, that equates to $7 million for us. It's page... It's page 2. All right? I'm going to adapt. You know, like the graph that Tisa put up earlier, the top half is what you saw earlier. Okay? You can see the different sectors within the higher education system that the regionals were at the lowest on an FTE per student. And since we've been speaking with a lot of you since late summer, Greg Schneider and myself, and received a lot of feedback and everything, and more recently with the governor's office. And it was suggested that we take it one step further, and the second half, the bottom of the page, is the same FTE, and it looks at students on an on-campus enrollment. And what that pertains to, it basically is with the introduction of online education years ago, and particularly accentuated after COVID, more and more students, at least from a regional perspective and other levels of higher ed, are doing online education. They're doing it from home. Okay, that's fantastic. It's great to consider that in the total headcount. But for institutions and a university enterprise such as ourselves, particularly the regionals, we look at that. Our buildings and assets have been affected immensely. Okay, I'll give you an example and blowing the whistle on ourselves. We had virtually 3.5 buildings empty. Okay, over the last 4 to 6 years, we renovated a new dorm in the center campus. It's gorgeous. We built another one just on the edge, a brand new dorm on the edge of campus. What we did not do was take care of our own business. We left sitting idle buildings. And by the way, thank you very, very much for the facility funding and demolition type of funds. We're utilizing that. We've taken down 2 buildings, and within the next 24 months are taking down 2 more. We have sold one in the meantime. So we've taken a lot of action around consolidating our own university, optimizing our assets. It all affects lowering deferred maintenance. We're in the next 24 months, our deferred maintenance is directionally going to be in the 20% reduction range. Space optimization, we tackled that. That's a KBOR initiative. In the next 24 months, we bettered that by 15%. Okay. These are efficiencies and things that needed to be done, and frankly, we're playing catch up. The funding that you've given to us earlier, last year primarily on the regional funding, it was a concept that frankly, Hayes, Pittsburgh, and ourselves about 1.5 years ago got together after we had taken and reviewed lots of data from our side and realized that we're different from a regional's perspective. Our students, if you draw a circle around, for example, Emporia, around a circle of 8 to 10 counties, that represents 80% of our students. Okay? I think it's probably, give or take, a similar direction for the others, but we're local. You know, our lower cost, for example, is an attraction to the students in our local areas. You know, our household income is 35% less as a regional university than the top universities, researchers. So those are demographics, those are key drivers in how we have looked at our business. We would consider, again, and I'll close with just the ask for consideration of the regional ask. It means a lot. We'll put it to use. It is an optimization. We will gladly report to you however you want with full transparency from our side. And with that, I will close. Thank you very much. The amount of information and data you receive is incredible. And I don't know how you do it, but my hat's off to all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Next, we'll have Dr. Richard Muma, President of Wichita State University. Richard, welcome, committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members, for the opportunity. I think you have our PowerPoint, and there's another handout on dentistry, and then a little fact card for information later. So as you've heard me say before, WSU aspires to be one of the most innovative urban public research universities in the state and in the nation. And if you go to slide 2, you could, okay. You're on slide 2. When I say urban public research university, that means 2 things. We're here to provide affordable, accessible education to anybody who wants to come to the university. And we're here to provide support for research, and developing our community, and providing that research, creative activity, and service initiatives to move things forward in the state. And every day we're driven by that affordability and access, feeding the talent pipeline, and increasing economic prosperity. So in terms of the first priority around affordability and access, if you look at this slide, you'll see that we're growing, both on the WSU campus and the WSU Tech campus. Matter of fact, when we affiliated with WSU Tech, that really provided a spark that's continued in our growth. And we have been growing now for several years. This is because of many reasons. Sedgwick County is growing, and we're prioritizing citizens there. Look at slide 4. We're keeping our price point affordable compared to our peers, and we're using need-based aid that you all are giving us along with our own institutional dollars. We're budgeting about 10% of our tuition revenue towards need-based aid to invest in these students. We're helping fill the gap that students have in their financial need to go to college. From the funds that you have approved over the last 3 years, for us, that's about $8 million. We've increased the population of students awarded by additional 7%. That's about 3,047 students. That's not near enough. As many of us know, our students come from low-income backgrounds or they're first generation. It's the future of students coming out of high schools. You can see in slide 5 that Kansas is at the bottom of per FTE spending in our region, although we're very appreciative of what you've done. And it used to be $100 per FTE, now it's $300. There's more need for this. Just in Sedgwick County alone, there's about 83,000 students who are between the ages of 25 and 35, and the highest educational attainment they have is a high school diploma. We know that the jobs of the future require something beyond high school, and there's 500,000 in the state. So we support additional budget to bring Kansas to the regional state average. That turns out to be about $14 million recurring dollars going forward. States all around us, as you can see, are investing in public education to fill their talent needs. Not addressing this puts us at a continued disadvantage, a competitive disadvantage, particularly trying to keep faculty and encourage students to come to Kansas. We also support the additional $6.4 million request to continue to support retention and student success, making sure once we recruit students into the pipeline, they enroll and stay and graduate. And you can see on slide 6 some of our outcomes around student success and the $1.5 million that you have provided us in the last couple of years. Their increased success will keep them progressing in college. We believe once this is fully optimized at the university that this will pay for itself and we won't need to be continuing to ask you for these funds. So in terms of the second priority, and that's filling the talent pipeline. We think that we're doing a good job at this with our enrollment, as I have demonstrated. And that's fueling this. 70% of our students are from the South Central region, and 70% of our undergraduates stay in Kansas and work when they graduate. Nearly all of WSU Tech students stay in Kansas and work. But as Kansas is not a growing population, if you look in slide 7, we've been branching out beyond Kansas, bringing people here, expanding that initial I-35 corridor recruitment approach. And that's grown about by 40%. And as new people have been coming to study in our state, and particularly at WSU, they're getting connected to applied learning opportunities that we provide them with our Innovation Campus partners and others in the community, and they're staying in Kansas to work. And nearly half of those students are staying and working in Kansas. As students get connected to our business partners, and you can see in slide 8 how many students are working with those partners and what they're making a year. And once hired, though, the more important thing is that they're already in the pipeline. They've already worked with those business and industry partners, and so that the training time is decreased for them. You have recently supported some applied learning investment at the university, and we thank you for that. That's really one of the reasons why it's continuing to grow. So for the final priority, increasing economic prosperity for our community and state. We do this by solving pressing issues through research in our community, like NIAR and the investment that you provided over the years, working on aviation problems. You all have invested heavily in the Wichita Biomedical Campus, and it's a partnership with KU. And you can look at slide 10 and 11, 10 and 11. We are currently constructing the facility. We believe that that's going to be another campus. It's like the Innovation Campus where we can attract additional partners to our campuses. Because of a lack of oral health care providers in Kansas, we are exploring what Kansas First Dental School in partnership with Fort Hays State University might look like. As you know, there are severe shortages in dentists throughout the state, especially in western Kansas. There are 77 counties that are underserved, and many counties, they don't even have an oral health provider. So as a measure of our success, I want to point out a few things. On slide 12 that you see here, you'll see that there's a 161% increase in R&D expenditures since 2020. For every dollar that you have invested in aviation, 17 has returned, creating over 3,300 jobs on the Innovation Campus in our community in the last 5 years. These are high-paying jobs, high-wage jobs. This past year, we surpassed $366 million in research expenditures. A significant portion of that funding is with our industry partners, helping them solve problems that they find most pressing to them. And we're expecting to surpass $400 million this next year. On slide 13, I think it's important to point out that now we are #1 in aerospace R&D in the country, #2 in industry-funded engineering R&D, #6 in total industry funding R&D, #8 in all engineering R&D in the country, and #14 in Defense Department R&D funding. I want to just kind of switch gears a little bit, a few things about compensation that's been brought up. I want you to know that we know that this is an issue. It's been a longstanding issue. I think you all are very aware of that. That's why we started on our own internally allocating towards a new market pay compensation program 3 years ago. We're trying to get our employees to 50% of the market median. We've invested $12 million so far through internal reallocation and revenues from enrollment growth. That's helped, but we're still 16% less compared to market. We're losing faculty to our peers. Many of them, for us, are going to Texas. So Texas is investing heavily in higher education. So now we're embarking on an additional plan on our own to close the gap in 5 years. And that gap for us is $25 million to get us to the 50% of the market median. So we're trying to do that $5 million at a time, over 5 years. That means more internal reallocation through cuts, position reviews, and other efficiencies. I'm telling you all this because we're willing to make these hard decisions. We've already done that, and your investment or your potential investment in this is going to make it much easier for us to keep people here. Many of our faculty who are leaving are taking research programs with them, and huge startups are being offered to faculty outside of this state. I just wanted to make sure you understand our perspective on this. We see it as a partnership, and we think a further investment in this from you all will help make that a reality. So slide 14, we have ample evidence of how we're using the resources that you're already giving us by providing affordable access, developing the talent pipeline, and growing the state's economy. I can't thank you enough for that. It's been very transformational for our university and the city and our community and the state. I want to just point to the slide 15, which is the last slide. What we're championing here and for your consideration is to support continued funding of need-based aid and student success. a feasibility and design study to help us figure out what we can do or should be doing with oral health. Your continued investment in cybersecurity, employee compensation, which I've already talked about, and then finally, investment in technical education for WSU Tech so they can continue to do things that they're doing and continue their success. That's all I got.
Thank you, Richard. And next we'll have Dr. Dan Shipp, President of Pittsburg State University. Welcome committee, Dan.
Save the best for last, is that how it works? Thank you, good to see everyone. You know, I can say ditto to a lot that's already been covered, right? So I will be very respectful of your time. Want to really share just a couple of slides with you. Our gorilla has snow on it, right? So just so you know, we've had our fair share. You know, I think we should start with a thank you to all of you for listening to these examples. Is really amazing of how we leverage the dollars that we receive. At Pitt State, we really have some great stories. From the $3 million last year that we received, we were able to invest that immediately into an academic merit scholarship program that would help attract and keep students on our campus. And that may seem like a small thing, but in addition to all the great need-based aid work that you've all done to support the institutions, we know that we haven't been competitive at Pitt State with academic merit scholarships. And so some of our enrollment loss through the last decade has been because we haven't been as competitive with surrounding states and even within the state. So we were able to invest the recurring dollars last year in families and students. Over 700 students received our new scholarship program award. So that's amazing. So thank you for that. That really makes, again, college affordable for our students. And then this is a really neat nugget, is that sometimes you think, well, a $500,000 investment in equipment, research equipment, what will that really do? Well, it will enhance faculty, certainly their lab experience and ability to research specific topics, students in those laboratories having those experiences. But I think if we're really good at it, I mean, you just heard a great example from Wichita State and what they're doing in aerospace. We have a strike zone at Pitt State that's focused on material science. And so we really have some amazing faculty and students that are doing research to help build better batteries, faster, smarter, stronger batteries for all different types of products all around the country as we look to onshore more of that technology here. Well, that $500,000 contribution last year, what that did for us is to continue to double down on that research work that we're doing in our research park. Well, what we hope that would lead to is attracting also a business within the Midwest to relocate some of their East Coast operations to our research park. And so guess what, that's happened. And so that company, Eagle Pitcher, wants to be very close to our research scientists and our students, so very similar to aerospace. Well, with this material science focus, we now are bringing 80 to 100 high-tech paying jobs to Pittsburg, Kansas. So that really has an outsized impact and effect of what we can do for our regional community. But I want you to really see, that's real time. Construction on that facility starts this summer. Also, the $2 million that we've received in 2 years ago goes to support our Center for Reading, which we're leaders not only regionally within the state, but nationally. You know, it would be fun to take you on a tour of the current facility that we use. It's challenged, let's just say that. This is allowing us to build upon our momentum in downtown Pittsburgh and to provide a really state-of-the-art facility to help educate current teachers that are in the field, to work with evaluating challenged readers all over the state and within the country. We have that type of a reputation and presence. So that money is going to allow us to help. I mean, gosh, we see about 450 families and challenged readers from all over. We think that's only going to grow significantly with this investment in our Center for Reading. So thank you. This is really about the good work that you've all done to provide us the resources to make all that happen. I won't go through a lot of this. I think this is, again, you have this in your materials, but who we are, we're proudly regional. President Mason and Hush have really outlined how we're different and how I think in the last 3 years, I can certainly say during my time, we're working in unprecedented ways to begin to share focus, not only financially, but operationally, to do right by the regions that we serve. And so that gives you a look at least our DNA at Pitt State, who we are. We do have an outsized impact, right? I think it's fair to say that you should all be proud of. We have to, what I say on the top, we have to be scrappy and strategic because resources are a real challenge for regional universities. So how do you make all of that happen over the last 3 years that you see on that page? It's really amazing. It's by partnering like crazy wherever we can that would focus in strike zones, both for the region, the community, and the university. And so working with Director Mativi and the funding that you provided to the KBI last year, we were able to build a project that will support local regional law enforcement, but also allow us to be an education center for students and research around criminal justice. So that's an amazing example of how you make something like that happen. We have to have great federal, state, local friends. If you look at Guerrilla Rising, it's our College of Business. We had tried for almost 2 decades to get a new College of Business built. And again, if I took you on a tour of our current facility, you might be up to your ankles in water in the basement. And so we really have challenged outdated facilities. Well, we were able to put that project together with federal, state, local partners and philanthropy to not only build a new College of Business in downtown Pittsburgh, which will think about that impact and net benefit to the community. But we're also, as part of the project, renovating a historic hotel that will serve as more campus housing, not on campus, but in the community. So we've tried to be really smart. I don't know if there are Scrabble players here, but we look for double and triple word scores wherever we can find them. And so this type of partnering is happening all the time. You can see there are other examples of how this is working, but again, none of this is possible without excellent state, local, and private support. I want to share one example with you. Didn't cost anybody $1. That's always nice, right, to hear that on occasion, but it really has an outsized impact. You'll remember 3 years ago, I think when I was here, I said that we were going to move to a automatic AA degree for students that make it through their gen ed course requirements. And so we implemented that. We were the first university to do so, and now it's available to all of our brothers and sisters around the state in KBOR. What's so important about that is that means students many times have to drop out because life gets in the way, right? Stuff happens, and you leave maybe owing a bunch of money without anything to show for it. So now our students at Pitt State have automatically conferred an AA degree when they pass through their gen ed requirements. What was important about a picture like this is we now have conferred over 1,000 AA degrees in the first year and a half. And that's not the end point for our students. That's a stop along the way toward earning their bachelor's degree. So if you think about it this way, our students earn 2 degrees for 1 price, but that insurance does so much for these students, and it helps encourage them. Many of our students, first generation, college seems like, gosh, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, a long time away. Most of our students are now earning an achievement within their first 2 years. And in this situation, I was walking away from our campus celebration. A young woman grabbed me and said, I want to take a picture. Is it okay with you and my mom and my grandmother? And here's what we're doing. They're all gorillas. And they wanted this picture because they wanted to commemorate the AA degree because it meant that they would earn the young woman earns another $5 an hour in her part-time job. And you think of that, right? Those are kind of the side effects of it. But she said, what's so important about that, my grandfather just passed away, and my mom and I are sending money home to keep grandma and our family home. And so I think sometimes we make some of these decisions and enact a policy or a change, and you don't really get to hear the human side of what that means to an individual. And that's important. So I just wanted to share that story with you because I think it's important to know that this change in policy didn't cost $1. We had to reorganize how we do some things on campus, but we're going to have unprecedented achievement for students and families at Pitt State into the foreseeable future. This is another example of how you would look at the funding challenge that our regional universities face in comparison to other institutions, whether you're talking about sector analysis, technical colleges, community colleges, research universities. I think fair to say we have far fewer pockets in our pants to invest dollars per student, and that's a real challenge. If you look at over the last decade, what that's really meant to a university like ours is to have, you know, a budget reduction of nearly $12 million. We're 140 people lighter, that's faculty and staff. And we've also had to deal, how do you then compensate for that? Tuition and fee increases, because it's really pretty simple. The funding for regionals in particular, right, is tuition, fees, and state support. So we have some private support, but it's pretty small in comparison. So that's a challenge, right? But not complaining to you, just saying, stating the facts that we really do. When I say we have to be scrappy and strategic for every dollar, I think you've heard it from all of us that we've had to learn to do a lot with a little. So we've asked, so the big ask for the regionals is the $21 million, and how we at Pitt State would begin to invest some of those dollars. This does not, again, get us up to a head above water, just barely. And what does that mean? I could take you through our facilities on campus and show you that we have 50-year-old biology labs, chemistry labs, physics labs. That is a significant challenge when you're trying to recruit students from high schools. Many of those high school students have junior highs that are in better condition than our science labs at Pitt State. And again, not a complaint, it's a reality. And so $6.5 million begins to address some of these long-standing issues. But if you took just one of those examples, science labs, that's estimated on our campus to be close to $50 million of renovation work. So it's not going to get there all at once, but we do have a priority of order of how we would begin to invest those dollars that we believe would make a big difference for our faculty, staff, and students. And then the last slide I would just say is that we are also supportive of certainly the facility funding, and thank you to the chair for really addressing this and making it a priority. The pay plan, if you look at our funding and where it sits, and if we continue to create a larger gap, it's an even bigger challenge for the university to begin to retain and recruit outstanding faculty and staff. And student success, that it's proving to pay off for us. We have a new Student Success Center, and we have remade how we support our students with academic and career advising. But that comes with it a price tag. And so we're asking for a continuance of that funding because it's not only bearing fruit and working, but as you can tell, again, from our funding overview, it's needed to continue this momentum on the university. So there you go. I made it through close to 10 minutes. Thank you for your time, and turn it back to you.
Thank you, Dan. Committee, I'll point out, we also had some written comments from Douglas Scott, Textron Aviation, Tiffany Mason, Kansas Health Science University. At this time, we'll do questions. Anyone have any questions? Senator Petty.
Thank you. And this is for the Chancellor from Wichita State. You mentioned about the investment that
you said Chancellor, and
I'm sorry.
yeah, so that confused me.
Gave you a new title. You talked about the investment that the Wichita State has made in the talent pipeline. And I was just wondering, how have you managed to be able to do that within your budget?
I'm talking about for compensation, employee compensation. So we have done some internal reallocation, some cuts to areas that we felt like we could make at the time. And then we've also had enrollment growth. So additional revenue from tuition has helped us as well. And that's how we will continue to try to meet that gap.
Thank you. President.
Other questions? Just a couple, means no one else does. Dr. Linton, at K-State, you're building a new feedlot, I understand. Is that in progress, or how's that coming?
Yeah, we have, this is outside of the agricultural innovation project that I had talked about earlier, so it's outside of the $210 million investment. The beef feedlot is really into 3 different phases or chunks. The beef feedlot itself, a metabolism unit, and then a feed mill that would be able to be used to be able to feed the animals. This is a 100% philanthropic effort, and with all 3 of those projects combined, we're a little bit over 55% of the funding raised for that, but we can move forward on phase 1, which is the beef feedlot.
So no state dollars.
No state dollars, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then Chancellor Girard, do you have any progress on the new cancer center? Or where are you at on that?
Actually, I was just looking to see, we're trying to find the groundbreaking date. So that will happen later this spring. Where we are from a funding perspective is we've raised about $250 million in philanthropy for that, our goal. And then, of course, the state has put in $75 million of that. We've got about $40 million of federal money coming into that. We've got a bonding request coming to the legislature that the university will need to bond about $100 million of it, and the hospital is going to bond the rest of it as well. So we are on track. We think we've got enough confidence that we're going to break ground.
And just for the committee's information, how many different buildings is the cancer center in now? Do you know?
12, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So this will bring everybody, all the researchers to one building and a significant amount of the clinicians.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dr. Mason. Tisa, you mentioned 600 new nursing students on campus.
Nursing students.
Nursing students, yes. And how are you? How are you? I mean, as far as your classrooms and stuff, are you able to handle all of them?
Yeah, so we had to do some internal construction in Stroop Hall in the meantime while we're waiting for the new building to come on board. And with the new building, we'll also be able to bring Allied Health over, which is, you may remember, is over in Cunningham. So there'll be a lot of synergy between those working in Allied Health as doing all the X-ray technician stuff like that. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
And Dr. Shipp, I got a quick question for you. So is your enrollment up?
So first-time, full-time enrollment is up 3 of the last 3 years.
Okay, I just seen it, enrollment was down, and I thought everybody was up.
It's graduate enrollment for us and international enrollment that's down, so that weighs down the overall net impact of bringing your first-time, full-time class up. So we have work to do there. There's no doubt about that.
But your enrollment's up. Good.
Yeah.
I just had seen that, and I thought you were.
And those scholarships are so important, right? So if we can't offer those academic merit scholarships I talked about, it's just a huge difference.
And are you drawn from Oklahoma and Texas also? Like
We need to
Wichita
draw
State?
more.
Oh.
We do. I mean, that's really part of it, is that we have the great mission of our region, and we're doing that really well. But, you know, my opinion, I think the state needs us to help brain gain some workforce too. So when I listen to the chancellor talk about what they're able to do at KU, we need to steal some students and momentum away from Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Ken Hush, President Emporia State.
Yes, sir.
So how's your new building coming down there?
The new nursing facility? Well, it's, we broke ground, let me see, late last spring. It's on track to finish probably November of this year. And so, and as a reminder, you just take this opportunity. 2 years ago, we asked for bonding of $15 million, which was the balance of that nursing building, in which you approved, and thank you very much. Last year, you might recall, we busted over the year, we raised money, and we said we didn't need that bond any longer. And so from a debt perspective, it's best for the university and the state, and it also helped student fees keep low and save the state $8 million in interest.
Good job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And last but not least, Dr. Richard Muma. And I liked your chart going down into Texas and stuff. So how many out-of-state students do you draw?
In total, from that area, it's about 1,600 students. In total, our out-of-state enrollment from the U.S. is about 10% of our population, and international is about 20.
And your enrollment's up also, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think everybody's is, right? I want to commend each and every one of our universities, because enrollment, I know, is up in all of them, and some are historic. So thank you for the good job. Any other questions? Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quickly, President Linton, can you just share very briefly about K-State 105? I'm not really sure exactly what that is.
Yeah, sure. So K-State 105, there were a 2-year investment of $5 million a year recurring that started a little bit over 2 years ago. The program is about building partnerships. This will enable us to be able to grow the economy and to be able to create jobs throughout the entire state. And so I think if you look at some of the metrics that are on the slide, it talks about over 400 jobs created just in that first year, partnership with over 400 businesses, and training, I think, 565 different people that are associated with the program. It's all about building partnerships for a synergism to enhance this, to enhance the economy and create jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My eyes aren't what they used to be. I'm trying to read those numbers, but thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Committee, any other questions? Seeing none, we will adjourn our meeting for today, and thank you all for being here. Appreciate